Good morning again. I appreciate you being here. The idea of this talk, I was informing myself for a couple of weeks that it was called Make a Joyful Noise. And then I thought, oh no, it's not that at all. It's Rejoice Evermore. So I had to switch gears. And when I was revisiting this idea yesterday, I was telling Charlie I didn't feel very rejoiceful, if that's a word. I felt, I was in a space of feeling the Christmas feeling closing in when you've been doing a lot, trying to think of everybody you love and care for, and trying to make little gifts and trying to meet every little deadline that appears on the calendar, and time just keeps ticking away and life feels really full and busy. And then you get to a point where rejoice evermore? I don't quite feel that. And when I even had to go look, well, maybe I don't know what rejoice is. Maybe I just think I know what it is. And then I looked it up, and it's to give joy to feel joy, our great delight. And I thought, rejoice evermore. And in the reading of Ernest Holmes, we are to rejoice evermore. There is not sadness in the spirit. It is ever happy and free, for it knows neither depression nor confusion. And we belong to it and are in and of it. We are to rejoice evermore. To rejoice is to feel or to show that you're very happy about something. And I know that there's this quality of the one. I know that this idea of joy is ever present. And sometimes in our life experience, it's clouded over and we get diluted into the experiences that we're moving through. And I, in particular, was reflecting on this year at our center of the people that are no longer with us. And I was feeling sad for their loss. I'm feeling sad for the spouses of those people that are carrying on and creating a new life around their sorrow and their loss. Rejoice evermore. And so I was thinking about all of these things, and I remembered an email that we had gotten from Carrie Lynn, the daughter of Lolita and John Hughes, who both passed away this year. And she lost both her parents within just a few weeks apart. And yet, she was rejoicing in this letter to our center. She said she wasn't able to attend. She had created the ceremony here, but she ended up with pneumonia, and she lives out of state, so she wasn't able to attend her mother's ceremony. And she writes this letter to us. My brother Paul came to spend a few days with us on his way back from Reading to Missouri. He brought me the video of my mother's memorial service. My heart is warmed. My dear friend Julie Marchand made with her friends this radiant quilt that hung as the backdrop to the service. I was so pleasantly surprised to see it there. I thought, this moment of time where one of our wonderful Savites remembered to hang our quilt for the holiday season. This quilt behind me is invested with many hands and many hearts of people pulling together an idea, a symbol that warmed our center through this holiday season. And so she was reflecting on this. My dear friend Julie Marchand, who made this and hung as the backdrop to the service, I was so pleasantly surprised to see it. It hung in her living room where my parents often joined in her chanting nights. And the last time I saw it was at Julie's own memorial service at another center. You may not know that I'm a quilter, but my friend Jim and his brocade jacket were perfectly framed in a still photo that Alan took. So I thought of this moment of this joy, this sense we never know when we are lifted back into this place of absolute joy. Sometimes we might be distracted by the emotion of joy, thinking it needs to be giggly and fuzzy, that we need to feel silly and almost drunk with joy. But there's a sense of deep, abiding peace with the true essence of joy. So to rejoice, to give to joy, to feel this great delight. And I found it very interesting that some of the words related to joy, look at these words that are related to joy: gloat, swell, boast, brag, flaunt, parade, show off, strut, swagger. Those words are related to joy. And yet there's a deeper sense of exuberance, glory, joy, exultation, triumph. All of these words pointing back to this deep essence of this one spirit, this one truth that dwells within us as us. So in Ernest Holmes, taking this idea and elaborating it from a phrase, a quote from the Bible, Thessalonians 5, he says, "See that none render evil unto any man, but ever follow that which is good." I love to see, after I've studied the science of mind philosophy for so many years, to turn back to Scripture and to see a truth about good expressed so boldly. See that none render evil for evil unto any man, but ever follow. See, we must know that no matter what is going on, it is not evil. It is sad sometimes what we experience, but it is not evil. There is a good forever unfolding. This is where we anchor our faith and our understanding to. So in this passage, follow that which is good, both among yourself and to all men. To recognize that we can allow ourselves, when we're not feeling that deep joy, as I was feeling that way yesterday, what do? I think of that millionaire game where you phone a friend. What do? I call on Charlie. I said, I'm empty. I'm empty. I have this opportunity to speak about rejoice forevermore. And feeling that, rejoice forevermore, makes me feel as if I should be smiling and filled with this exuberance. But I feel empty. I feel in a gray place. And so he sat and did treatment with me. And this is where it comes from. You pray unceasingly. You pray unceasingly. When we're in those dark, shadowy places, we pray unceasingly. We turn and we do phone a friend. We find someone in the light, and we ask that they take our hand and lead us deeper into that place of absolute knowing when we cannot see it for ourselves. Rejoice evermore. Pray without ceasing. In everything give thanks. That's the quote goes on to say, quench not the spirit. Don't suppress the spirit in those moments when we feel dark, when we feel sad. And the holidays can bring that on for us. We can think, oh, we're supposed to be so happy. And we're supposed to feel this joy and sing these happy little songs that are going through our head because they're in every elevator and every store. And we should feel this. But we walk away just wanting to feel closed in at times. But this passage, rejoice evermore, pray without ceasing, in everything give thanks, quench not the spirit, despise not prophesying. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good. You see, that deep faith, anchor, all is good, all is good, all is good. This too, I am moving through. This too, my friends are moving through. When I think of the people in this center that the practitioner unit has prayed for over this year, who have lost their spouse, who have faced a cancer, who have faced great loss and tragedy in their life experience, and yet when I see them, I see smiles. I see that they have chosen to move on. They have chosen to see a greater good. They have chosen that power of the one. So the final part of this quote, abstain from all appearances of evil, and the very God of peace sanctify you wholly, blesses you wholly. If you can abstain from all appearances of evil, and it is so easy to be drawn into that idea that, no, this can't be good. This cannot be good. My heart is breaking. How can this be good? God is good all the time. So when Ernest Holmes invites us into that idea of pray without ceasing, to be always on the affirmative side of life, remove doubt and trust in the law of good. This inner communion is essential to the soul. These are Ernest Holmes' words to us. So if you're in that dark shadow of the soul, if you're in that space, recognize that we are celebrating light here. We have just moved through the winter solstice, and so the days will get lighter. And so this is always a representation, a truth known in nature that life is evolving and light will shine again into your experience. This inner communion is essential to the soul and natural to the mind. It is a constant recognition of our relationship to that presence in which we live, move, and have our being. We sit in the presence of the one. We sat a few moments ago, wrapped up in silence, and the invitation was to be with your own mind. And you probably were witness to the busyness of the mind, the wonderment of the mind. How long will this go? Or you perhaps chose a favorite mantra or prayer that led you even deeper inward. So in everything, give thanks. Hold an attitude of gratitude, no matter what is experiencing in your life in this moment. So always our talks are inviting you to remember this union, remember this invitation to unify with the divine qualities. And when we feel separate, whenever we allow ourselves to feel separate, that's when we start to suffer. And I was reading a passage from a question that someone was giving to their spiritual teacher. Why does joy seem so quick and brief? You know, we get these moments of, oh, and yet depression kind of sticks, kind of lasts long, and we can feel it, kind of the heavy burden of depression. And you see, we have a choice. We allow ourselves to have a choice in those moments to let it go. And it sounds easier said than done. But every prayer, every invitation is for you to invoke that sense of greater good unfolding. Eileen Cady is a wise woman that was, some of you might be familiar with her name, but she was one of the founders of Findhorn, and they made these incredible gardens out of the sands in Scotland. And she had a lot of conversations in her solitude and in her conversations with God. And she starts it this way when you're in those dark places. Start the day with joy in your heart and thanksgiving on your lips. So if you woke up and you felt that sense of another day, you can shift that in that moment. And you can stare out into nature and you'll see the birds flying around and you'll see life happening in a beautiful way. Start the day with joy in your heart and thanksgiving on your lips. There is so much to be grateful for. And this will raise your consciousness immediately. So you see, when you're in that dark place and you raise your consciousness immediately, you're dwelling in that place into that altar of God, into that place of absolute joy. To start your day in a muddle or a blur is not helpful to yourself, to your family, or to anyone. If you are feeling critical of someone, find something in that person that is positive and good, and you can. And you allow yourself to concentrate on that until you feel this loving force flowing through you into that person. You see, here it is again, pray without ceasing. Every mystic, every wise teacher, every master teacher will point you and lead you into that avenue of conversation with God, which is praying without ceasing. Don't ever turn away and get swept into the whirlpools of the mind, into the effects of what we think is going on, because our consciousness was born in joy, to return to joy. So when we hold true to our relationship with the divine, we recognize that true joy is a kind of warmth and illumination of the heart, and also of the mind, but more so of the heart. Because the mind will do what the mind will do. It bounces all over the place, and you probably witnessed that. How long is she going to keep us silent? I've got things to do today. How long is this going to be? Because when we're in silence, time all of a sudden gets unknown. How many of you wanted to look down at your watch? We've been doing that for 30 seconds. It felt like a really long time. So it's interesting to watch ourselves, to allow the moments of invitation into joy, to recognize our true self dwells there. Think back in your own personal experience, your moments, your journey, where the moments of joy just bubbled up so innocently, and you were driven by that joy. So when you enter into the contact with that truth, it is known in the yogic tradition as Santosha, that deep, abiding contentment. And Santosha is an idea that you're enveloped in this quality of divine joy. You're at peace with yourself and all others. This is where this idea of supreme joy is celebrated. So when we pray, when I speak of praying unceasingly, this is the invitation to absolutely know your unity with God, with Source, with Spirit. What is your name for that unity of the One? And when you recognize, as you call forward that knowing, that connection, that unity, that oneness, you become that drop of water in the ocean, and you feel yourself carried by the current of that greater truth. I and the Father are one. There's a perfect union. Trouble comes your way, heartache burdens you. You eliminate the idea of focusing on that, and you turn to the one. I and the Father are one. I and the Father are one. Whatever mantra, whatever prayer enters into your heart. I was reflecting that I almost thought that the shepherds and the wise men, in their journey in the silence as they were out in their fields, and they caught this glimpse of consciousness, as at this time of the season, the idea of a divine babe being born and a new star appearing in the sky. All of these ideas, this consciousness, this hopefulness, drew everybody into a place of consciousness to want and to long for that journey. And so they were stirred with a sense of deep joy. And they followed the light, and they followed the vision of their heart. They followed their journey so that they could behold that sense of the Christ, that they could allow themselves again to prove that sense of being happy, being free, being joyous, that there was something more, something that was drawing their mind into one-pointedness. They followed that light, they followed that vision into that perfection. So we can practice this state when we're in beautiful moments of our life. It's easier then. So you allow yourself to get confident in those moments when you're allowing joy to be expressed in your life. Practice longer in those moments. Practice. And allow yourselves to do what all the great mystics and teachers have asked us to do, is just to be willing then in the difficult moments to embrace joy. Even in the difficult moments, reach out and allow that joy to be held close in the altar of your heart. So the invitation right now is just, I ask you, where does your mind go? Where does your mind go when things aren't going well? And have you had that experience in the last few weeks? Where does it go? What do you do? Do you phone a friend and complain about it and draw it out even longer and make them miserable too? Or do you sit with it long enough until you can see the seed of truth there that is an invitation to let it go and to share joy with your fellow men? So anchor into a truth when you're drifting into the voices of the mind. We have such a committee in the mind, such a committee. And all the different voices will show up at the doorway of your altar to the heart and try to pull you in another direction. But the invitation is for you to sit a little longer, to eliminate those distractions and to focus on your truth. I've been enjoying reading The Essential Self. It's one of Ernest Holmes'. It's a combination of his work. And we have a class on Wednesday nights, and we really delve deep into some of his work. And we also apply it right then and there for those of us in the class that are in a personal struggle in that moment. We don't let that struggle go. We go right into the middle of that struggle, and we apply these principles. And Ernest Holmes reminds us of this in this particular work. See only what you wish to experience and look at nothing else. How wonderful is that? See only what you wish to experience and look at nothing else. No matter how many times the old thought returns, destroy it by knowing that it has no power over you. Look it squarely in the face and tell it to go. It does not belong to you, and you must know that and stick to it. And then you're free. Then you're set free. You see, when I share these moments of Ernest Holmes' wisdom, when we're in a place of ease in our own life, they're very palpable. I can do that. But these can be very annoying when you're in a place of struggle. And you have to watch that. I invite you just to watch that, to physically feel that in your body. What does she mean just to destroy it, know that it has no power over me? It's driving my life. You're letting it. Move it out of the driver's seat and put your consciousness with God driving you, and allow a mantra or a prayer that fills that space, that fills that. Make yourself feel that you now have and you shall be given. It is one of the spiritual truths. Act as if it's so, and so be it. So one of the beautiful treatments that Ernest Holmes completed this particular work with was, I now accept all that I have hoped for and believed in. Can you do that? I now accept all that I have hoped and believed in. There is nothing in me that can doubt that good will make its appearance in my experience. There is nothing in you that can doubt that good will come. If you just take that with you through this season, through this next year, as you are right now, as you meet that new year of 2014, you have the privilege of already creating the most wonderful year and setting the intentions by praying unceasingly that it will be done as you believe. So there is nothing in you that can doubt that goodwill will make its appearance in my experience. There is nothing in me that can dissipate my faith or dim its clear realization. I see in everyone that which I know to be true about myself. I see in everyone that which is true about myself. Therefore, everyone I think of is blessed by my thought. How wonderful is that? What other gift can you give this season other than that sense of seeing everyone in that place of their holy nature, seeing that they too rejoice evermore? And just even allowing that phrase to echo into the chambers of your heart, to call you inward, rejoice evermore, rejoice evermore. What would that be for you? What has to happen in your life experience to rejoice evermore? There is not sadness in the Spirit. The Spirit is ever happy and free. It does not know depression nor confusion. That is not your true nature. That is not the truth about who you are. We have practitioners here to sit with you today. If what I speak to you touches your heart in such a way that causes you to stir and feel the loneliness of spirit, because my longing for each and every one of you is to walk from these halls today and feel infused with spirit, with joy, with the sense of hope and faith that a good is unfolding in your life today, now, tomorrow, and always. And when you witness that in yourself, you are truly rejoicing evermore. Join with me in a prayer. That prayer we begin in that place of deep stillness, because I respect each and every one of you in the longings of your heart, in the journey of your heart, your experience, your emotions, your feelings. I hold that sacredly. But as we join in this moment of treatment together, as we call upon the one truth, the one God, the one Spirit, the one love, we merge with that love. Allow your body, the physicalness of your body, to be anointed by that love, to feel that sense of that Christ knowing born in you. And allow the chambers of your heart to light up with a brilliance of joy, with a faith and a conviction of your greater good unfolding now and forevermore. That this too shall pass if you know that you're in a dark place, but you recognize that before you is the light, and the light is calling you forward, and love is beckoning you deeper into the understanding of this truth that dwells within you as you. So rejoice evermore and recognize the gratitude of your heart that brought you here today, that you share in fellowship with one another this great truth, this great knowing that God is all there is. And in this knowing, joy bursts forth and shines its light. And as you are awakened to this truth, you rejoice evermore. I give thanks for this knowing. I release this, knowing that each and every one of you are carried in light and love and truth. Your good is now, and so it is.
I'm very pleased to have Rev.Sue here this morning to talk about rejoicing evermore.
That is a beautiful treatment, Mary. So beautiful. That's the talk in itself. She read my notes. Way to up me there. Okay. Actually, the idea of rejoicing, and it does come so much through the music, doesn't it? It stirs us. And I was sharing at the 9 o'clock service for some reason I kept changing this talk in my head, calling, make a joyful noise. And so I was just going to fa la la with you and do a few fun things like that. And then I thought, oh, rejoice evermore. A little bit different. But the fa la la and the beautiful way we tone the different sounds of our Christmas carols, it brings us into a vibration of our soul that remembers that joy is indeed always present. And this joy that I speak of, it isn't that, it can be a very happy, joyful, smiley, rich feeling, but it can also just be a very deep-rooted sense of peace, deep, deep sense of abiding peace. And I was reading some of my work from Swami Satchidananda, who was one of my very first yoga teachers. And he has a journal, and he states this: nothing, and he underlines the word brings, nothing brings you joy. Nothing brings you joy. And he writes this: to enjoy life to the fullest, stop wanting anything. If something comes, let it come. If it goes, let it go. Just be contented with what you have. Even if something goes from what you have, it doesn't matter. Accept it. You should feel, God gives me everything that I need, and God takes away everything I don't need. Then you will always enjoy what you have or what you lose. Yes, enjoy the coming, enjoy the going. Enjoy the profit, enjoy the loss. The only way to enjoy is to just be what you are. You are not going to enjoy by getting things. If you are going to enjoy by getting things, you're going to be depressed by losing things. That's important. True joy doesn't come from anywhere. Nothing brings you joy. No person brings you joy. You yourself are joyful always. So enjoy that. That's what you call enjoyment. Depend on nothing, because nothing from outside can make you joyful. I could stop right there, because that's everything that I'm trying to say today in that passage, in that knowing that if we simply relax with what is, so many of our spiritual teachers in this day and time keep pointing to that. Be present. Be present with what is. Don't burden today with a bunch of worry, because it only takes your power away. So you allow yourself this deep sense of allowing yourself to relax. John Calvin, there's a quote that says, "There is not one blade of grass, there is no color in this world that is not intended to make you rejoice." Somebody told me at the 9 o'clock service, I kept talking about joy, but my face was so miserably. I'm thinking, okay, I'll try to be a little bit better. But sometimes I get so serious about the spiritual teaching, not because I think it's a somber teaching, but I think it's so real and so true, and I don't want to distract by being silly about it. Because this idea of deep knowing of joy inside of us is so important to know, because some of us suffer from depression at this time of year. We've been fortunate with some beautiful weather, though we do call upon the rain. But some people get that depression because the days are too dark and they need more light in their life. I'm sensitive to that. I'm sensitive to the suffering that people feel at this time of year. They can be annoyed by everybody being all happy and wearing, pretty clothes, and they don't feel like that. They don't feel it. And the true essence of joy is taking that pause, taking that deep knowing to be willing to be still enough to invoke this truth inside of you, to let it bubble up inside of you. We need to create the space for joy to be. This quote that Charlie shared this morning, a very brief quote, but very potent, and it comes from also the full quote that Ernest Holmes was using in one of the books that we're using this week about looking at the Bible through the science of mind eyes. And so the quote itself is from, I did it so good at 9 o'clock. Thessalonians. It's one of those, I don't really know what it is. Whoever wrote that has a lisp as long as well as I do. Thessalonians. Okay. Or they had a cup of wine. Anyway, Thessalonians, I don't know. See that none render evil for evil unto any man, but ever follow that which is good. This is the important part here. Follow that which is good among yourselves and to all men. Rejoice evermore. Pray without ceasing. In everything give thanks. Pray without ceasing. Hear those words. Let it tumble through your heart. In everything give thanks. Quench not the spirit. It's not a time to quench the spirit. Despise not prophesying. You prove all things. Hold fast that which is good. Recognize with deep faith. This is one of the cornerstones of this teaching, that a greater good is indeed unfolding all the time. All the time. And we can be so caught and entertained by the effects of this world. And the invitation is to dwell in a place of absolute knowing that a good is unfolding. If we can anchor into that truth, the end of this quote, abstain from all appearances of evil. See, abstain from all appearances of the effects. And the very God of peace sanctifies you wholly, blesses you wholly. When we allow ourselves to abide in that truth. So this idea to pray without ceasing, to always be on this affirmative side of truth. And we live in a really busy world. It's a very busy world. It can be challenging, and sometimes we don't allow ourselves to truly allow this joy to penetrate to the surface. We allow our mind to be a sheath that cloaks over this greater knowing, this absolute bliss that dwells within you as you. There is this knowing. Every sacred scripture points to this bliss, this divine nature, this joy, this love, this truth, this sweetness that dwells within you as you. But we don't allow our mind to focus in, to gather all of our consciousness into that one-pointedness and to draw that light, to beam it down into the altar of our heart and to feel this great knowing. And it's interesting, when you think of anything that causes us to concentrate deeply or to penetrate anything, you think of a drill, it focuses into that space. We're trying to gather all thought form. All of our thoughts, we're trying to collect it and bring them together and concentrate on one idea. And this holiday season, these holy days are so important because we're drawing our attention, whichever faith path you are, it's asking you to draw your attention to a consciousness, to a Christ-like knowing inside of you. So we rejoice. I want you, whenever I say rejoice, I want you to plaster the smile on, whether you're feeling it or not. Rejoice in the holidays. And ask yourself, well, what does that look like? I'm so busy trying to get everything done. What does it matter, really, when you think about it, if it's not done? You can send it the next day. You can. You're not a bad person if you didn't do it on the 25th. And there's an idea of how do we anchor our mind? And I spoke to this at the solstice service that we celebrated at the Pilgrim Congregational this week. And I spoke a little bit about it through the idea of mantra. Now, I'm talking about mantra it can be in Sanskrit, it can be in English, it can be a sacred Latin chant. What mantra are you going to allow to be your tool to allow your mind? Mantra itself, that word just simply means to cross over the mind. Oh, the mind loves to have busyness. It loves it. Listen to this story from Swami Satchidananda about this busyness. Once a man wanted to perform extraordinary feats, so he went into the forest and approached a sorcerer. The sorcerer told him, I can give you a big demon who will do everything for you, but be careful. You must always be able to give him work. If you don't, he will devour you." The man said, "Well, there's a lot to do in this world. Don't worry, I can easily find work for 10 demons. So the sorcerer gave him the spell with which he could summon the demon. At the proper time, the demon appeared and asked, "My master, why did you call me? I have come, give me some work." The man immediately said, "I want a huge palace with many rooms. Build one and fill it with beautiful furnishings from around the world." Well, he thought that building such a big palace and furnishing it would take a while, so he decided to go to sleep until the demon was finished. He was about to lie down when the demon appeared and said, "Master, rejoice, your palace is ready." And there it was, a huge palace fully furnished. The man thought for a second and said, "I must have 100 servants to keep everything in order." "Yes, master," said the demon, snapping his fingers. "The servants are already there, taking care of everything." "I need some cars," said the man. "Beautiful cars, master. Rolls Royces and Cadillacs with drivers and a private filling station." "Oh, it's all ready." "Well, I'm hungry," said the man. "A gourmet meal with maids to serve it is standing in the dining room," replied the demon. The man was quite puzzled. Now, that reminded me of my mind. Charlie can testify to this. He thought, if I make one more project for one more person, our living room was just filled with beads and little ditties of things. And he said, "Do you have to make something for everybody?" And I thought about all of you today, and I thought, I can't do it. I felt like that demon was possessing me. I was just trying to make something for everybody. So I just bring you my heart today. Okay. The man thought for a second. I was getting quite puzzled. What's going on here? The minute I ask for something, you make it appear. It doesn't even take you a second. "Well, don't hesitate," said the demon. "Give me some work. I can't be without work. Give me something to do." Well, the man didn't know what to say because the demon didn't ever give him time to even think about what he wanted done next. He tried his best to give work to the demon, but everything got done immediately. Then the demon said, "Either give me work or I'll devour you." The man ran back to the sorcerer, but the sorcerer wasn't there. Sitting nearby was a holy man. He fell at the holy man's feet, saying, "A demon is after me. If I don't give him something to do, he will devour me, and I've run out of things for him to do. What can I do? Can you help me? Please help me." "Yes, my son," said the saint. And he plucked one of his very curly hairs out of his head and gave it to the man, saying, "Bring this to the demon and ask him to keep it straight." The man returned and ordered the demon to perform the new task. The demon held the bottom of the hair in one hand and slowly pulled it straight with the other and then let it go. It sprang right back and curled right back up. Again he tried, and again it sprang back. "Have you finished straightening it?" said the man. "No, I'm still trying," replied the demon. "Well," said the man, "finish quickly because I have some other work for you to do." So, when you see what this is pointing to, this demon's work was now to straighten the hair. Whenever the man needed some work to be done, he would just call the demon and have him leave the hair temporarily to do the work in a second and then return. And then the demon always had something to do and was under control. The mantra is the curly hair. The mantra is where you anchor the mind and you allow yourself to stay entrained with the mantra of your heart. Where do you find that? It's the stirring. It's what you feel when you hear a passage or you hear any one of the beautiful carols and there's a certain passage. Be still and know, be still and know, be still and know. This idea of anchoring in to a mantra, to a phrase, to some holy words, to a vibration. And what that vibration does, you see, it penetrates the cells of the body and it takes you to your very core. It's a lovely practice. And when I was speaking on Thursday night, the chant that I was introduced to when I was 19 from Swami Satchidananda was Hari Om. Was Hari Om. And I found that was a removal of all obstacles. is one of the meanings behind that, and it is one that in the Hindu tradition they have used it for 30,000 years. Isn't that awesome? For 30,000 years they've used it at this time of year to call upon the light, to remove the darkness, to remove confusion. And so we shared, I couldn't believe I did that night too, because I never chant in front of people. I don't sing in front of people. Mary can testify to that. I did fa la la, but then that's where I stop. Because I can blend my fa la la, and I can blend oftentimes in mantra, because it takes on your own personal tone. But the interesting thing, why I share this story about anchoring into a phrase, to pray unceasingly in these moments where you're not feeling the joy, when you're calling upon that greater spirit to emerge by means of you, as you. It's interesting, this particular book I'd given to my daughter, and it's called Essential Musical Intelligence. And it's using music as your pathway to healing, creativity, and radiant wholeness. You would just love this book, wouldn't you, you four? But it's mine. Pluck my hair. Okay. But it's interesting because she was talking about different chants from the different traditions, and of course she takes some Christian chants that we're familiar with, but she started off with a couple from Edgar Cayce. Now, do you guys know who Edgar Cayce is? This mystic of Edgar Cayce, a clairvoyant, a very interesting man of his era. Things just came to him. Listen to the Hari Om. When I say it, it is spelled Hariom. Hari Om. This is the one that came through to him to use, and he invited people to use, and it's spelled A-R-E-R-E Om. Ariom. Ariom, Hariom. Ariom, Hariom. Ariom. I thought to myself, and this means it is intoned in a single note through one exhalation. So I invite you, just put your hand over your heart and just feel that Ariom, 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 Ariom. Takes you into a still place. It cannot help but take that vibrational sound deep into your core. And in Edgar Cayce's explanation of it, it's intoned in such a way to assist you in drawing into the love of the Absolute. The vibration, the sound. Sometimes we try to describe what this awe is, what this love is, what is it that we are rejoicing? What is it? And it comes in a vibration. It comes through the simple sound of awe. Oh. You see, those sounds are the natural sounds of joy. When you see the most beautiful, exquisite sunrise, isn't it? Oh. And then you try to fill it in with your English, trying to describe it to somebody else. But it's that moment of awe. It's that moment where you've touched the bliss place of your heart, and there is that unity of the Absolute. There is that oneness. Hari Om, Om. Be still and know. What is the language of your heart? And this is what we call for here in our teaching. Not to try to fill yourself with words that you're not comfortable with. You find the words that allow your heart to sing and to open. You create that joyful noise. You create it. And you call upon that joyful noise in those moments when you're in the dark night of your soul. Because you'll even hear, if you're sobbing in the dark night of your soul, you will hear the sounds of joy trying to penetrate that darkness. It's trying to come through. You can hear the sounds of awe and oh. It's visceral. It is your allowance of creating the sound to invoke the remembrance of joy. And this can unify all of the fragmented parts of yourself. If you're feeling like you're just all disjointed, the vibration will bring you into your wholeness. It'll bring spirit into that awakened state inside of you. It's always ever present in you as you. It is in you as you, longing to be called forth into that vibration of absolute joy. So this idea of taking a phrase, taking a mantra to cross over the mind. Some of the ancient teachings of the Yoga Sutras talk about this as being Santosha, this deep, abiding contentment. And I love that word, Santosha, because it just pulls all the meaning into my heart. It's united in the heart. Consciousness is settled, and we abide in our true nature. What is our true nature? Joy. What does it look like, feel like? We each know that. We each know that, and if you can't remember it because you're in a dark place, go back to the Christmases and those moments where you anticipated the joy of the gift or the joy of the moment, the joy of the season. It's mystical, it's magical, and it's universal. And at other times we identify with these rays of consciousness. We have this centered knowing of truth. But at other times we're associating with the other rays of consciousness, those consciousness waves that allow our mind to fluctuate and bend and move into areas of misery or suffering, into perceived suffering because we've allowed it to take our soul, to take a piece of us. But when you're united in the heart, consciousness is then steadied, and we abide in our true nature. That is the sutra. It starts it right off with that. And over this knowing of this bliss state that dwells within you, we have many sheaths that seem to overcome that, to cover those knowings of deep truth. And we have intuition that is very, very close to that still place within us, to that place of joy. Our intuition is where God speaks to us. And if we can settle ourselves so still on these holy nights, when we have the Christmas Eve service, I invite you, the music is all in training you to open up to a vibration of this truth. So if you haven't been feeling Christmas or you haven't been feeling like you're rejoicing, you allow yourself to let the music open you. Let the prayers of our heart open you. And allow yourself to come into community. You are not alone. And so when you leave from the candlelighting service, you take that light with you. And in the still hours of the night, you allow yourself to draw into that prayer of your heart, to heal the wounds that you might be experiencing, to pray unceasingly, to breathe, to breathe. Marianne Williamson says, joy is what happens to us. Joy is what happens to us when we allow ourselves to receive and recognize how good things really are. How good things really are. So I know this has been a beautiful year for many of you. And I know this has also been a year of challenge for some of you. But I also know that we're all evolving. And this greater good cannot help but be made manifest. It is the truth, and when we can anchor on this greater truth, when we can allow ourselves to see only what we wish, this is Ernest Holmes' words, we want to see only what we wish to experience, and we're not allowing ourselves to look at anything else, no matter how many times that old thought tries to return. You allow yourself to destroy it by knowing it has no power over you. It has no power over you, those old thoughts. And you could be watching the mind game, going, oh yeah, but she doesn't know, blah, 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 blah. I know a lot. I know a lot of suffering. I've touched a lot of suffering, and so have you in our lifetimes. We're here for one another. And that's what being in community, coming to a center means. That's why we all love this place so much and we care about it so deeply. because it's a place to restore the fragments of our soul. For when we hit those hard times, we have a place to turn to, and we have a sound and a vibration and a sense of love and open arms that will embrace you and hold you. So I invite you, we've got powerful practitioners here today. Bonnie is also here to serve. And we are here. If you're not feeling it, we are here to hold your hand, to speak love into that space, so that you know, so that you wake up Christmas morning, born again into that Christ knowing of that consciousness that dwells within you as you. Accept all these things. Accept this truth. That's the gift we give. Just accept this truth. Allow it to anoint your way and allow your intentions to be set forth. Being the gatekeeper of your mind as you prepare for 2014, you have the privilege to rejoice forevermore. Rejoice. Let me see you say it. Rejoice, rejoice. Is that a song? Rejoice. Really return to joy. That's all. That's our Christmas message for you today. Return to the joy. It's been there beckoning you inward. So join me in a treatment because we're about to celebrate the joy of the children. So we pause and we breathe our word of truth, as we recognize God is all there is, love is all there is. And as we join and merge with this consciousness of truth, our hearts settle into the absolute grace of the never-ending love that flows through us as us. And as we sit with our mind and our heart united in consciousness in this one, as we sit in the Santosha of truth, in this deep abiding contentment, we recognize in these holy days that we are blessed indeed, that everything our heart desires is truly there as we show the gratitude and just allow ourselves to keep moving, to keep praying, to keep being thankful for all that there is. My privilege to speak to the heart of each and every one of you this day as the greater gift of God, that greater gift of love flows through each and every one of us in this divine and holy moment. I simply let these words go, let them be. In gratitude and heart, I know that they're so, and so it is. So I want you all to stay for